Welcome back. We are on to Apotheosis, apparently. The first map of this best of 5. Between Theo and Lillekanin. Just about ready to go. There it is. Alright, best of 5 between these guys means that this could very well be a very long match, but I say that, you know, and it is Apotheosis, so I might just mean it. But I think the last time I saw these two guys duke it out was probably months ago, mind you, so it was a very different game, actually, in Legacy of the Void. But Lillekanin actually tried to cheese Theo out, or vice versa, or something like that, and it ended up being kind of short, you know, we kind of hyped it up as, you know, oh my god, these guys had this thing once, and it was really epic, and then it didn't happen, and I just remember being very underwhelmed, especially because I think, like, Rifkin was also trying to hype it up to me, like, personally, and I was like, oh, that didn't really happen, did it? Oh well. But we'll see what happens on Apotheosis. We already have an SCV moving out for Lillekanin, though, so hey, there you go. In the top left, as the orange Protoss, not Zerg, it is Theo. Cast too many Zerg on this map. In the bottom right, as the green Terran, he is Lillekanin. And of course, Lillekanin has an early SCV out, not scouting, but rather building. Theo has an early probe out for scouting, not building. Because he knows who he's playing against. And really, the best defense against Lillekanin is a good scout, basically. So, it's already starting off not fantastic, to be honest, but it's not the worst case scenario. Because the worst case scenario is you find the proxy and then kill the SCV. That's just the worst. So just seeing the lack of a barracks, he knows what's up. He sees both gases as well, which means he knows that the follow-up is not some type of... It's not just going to be the Reaper into a command center, which is a fairly common cheese opener, or aggressive opener, whatever you want to call it. That happens every now and then. No, this is going to be more dedicated. It could even be a proxy factory, but at this point, Lillekanin knows he's been scouted, and probably shouldn't be proxying, at least not in a very common location, and to the left here is a fairly common location, so... you know, maybe this SCV goes up here for the starport that's also fairly common, that might be scouted, but the factory is put back at home. Thank you to HM Wold for the 6-month resub. I think I nailed it with the starport gifts, man. We do cast this guy a lot. First Reaper is on the way, and while this was all scouted and that's well and good, it does not mean it is easy to hold. We actually have 2 gateways. That's interesting. You can actually hold this with 1. You even go for a Zealot first, and you can maybe soak up a couple of the shots. Oh, that Reaper cannot die. But you can also go for the Nexus. Like, that's not out of the question here, even though this does kind of snowball. It's not that difficult to do with a Nexus, to defend against it with Nexus. Negative passive crimes for the 26-month resub. So that is an interesting thing then, not just in like, okay, Theo is going to have a lot of adepts, and it's going to be different than what Lillekanin usually faces. It's also going to be like, okay, why exactly did Theo do this? Is he going to try and counterattack? If he had the probe out and about, he could have built a proxy pylon, and that actually would have been frustrating for Lillekanin. Not devastating because he has a wall, but frustrating. And I was like, saw the mothership core go across too, and I really did wonder. But Lillekanin, he retreated thinking that something was going to get him eventually, which an adept was about to pop out, but actually, without the mothership core in the main base, he probably could have gotten a few probe kills, which I don't think he's gotten them yet. Oh my bad, he's gotten 2. Still, with a proxy Reaper, it's more like you want to get kind of 4, I would say, and if you commit to the proxy Reaper, so that's more than 2 Reapers, that's the proxy starport, I think you want to get 5 or 6. But the Banshee's going to be able to make up for the lack of SCVs. Oh, really nice catch by Theo on the Reapers. Pretty baller there. That was a good guess. So only 1 Reaper survives. That is enough to get some scouting, but also enough to get a couple of surprise probe kills. So don't underestimate this Reaper. Of course, the barracks is going to lift and scout, because Lillekanin does and will go mech. It's just a question of what can this Banshee do now, and what type of mech Lillekanin's going to go into. I'm going to guess Cyclone. I'm going to guess he's also going to go ahead and grab that Cyclone upgrade. I want to note, by the way, Not only has Lillekanin killed a couple of probes, multiple times Theo's had multiple probes not mining. In this case, only one, but there's been like cases of 3 or 4. So really, if we had the income graphs, I'm sure you could see dips as he did that. And again, because he went for the Nexus a little bit later, you're also going to see a very different looking graph than if you compared, you know, this build against the person who went for only 1 gateway expand. I really like that Theo went for the Stargate, though. This is actually pretty bad for Lillekanin, who sees it with not only, I guess, the Barracks, but also saw an Oracle with the Banshee, so... Oracle first means it gets the tag Revelation on it, but the Phoenix come a little bit later. Still, it's a light unit, and it does go down very quickly to Phoenixes. Tried its best. One more Banshee was made. It could probably do something, because Revelation's been using this Oracle already, but Theo knows what's up. You know, he's getting a second Oracle. If he had gone for a Robo and an Observer, he could have been actually in a lot of trouble. He would have been able to detect the Banshee, but he probably wouldn't have been able to chase it, and that would have been more devastating than the occasional, you know, 5 seconds of this Banshee getting Cloak on it. Just gonna target on the probes, because that's all it really can do. 5 maybe? No, just the 4. Another Banshee's being built, believe it or not. At this point, Lillekanin doesn't really care about what's going on the other side of the map, I suppose. Like, he wants to get scouting, he wants to get probe kills, but as long as his opponent's keeping his units on the other side of the map, he can do whatever he wants here. And whatever he wanted was actually going for 3rd CC right after that factory was built, second factory was built. Of course, he has an engineering bay. He doesn't even really need missile turrets because he has cyclones, but it is that stack defense that's going to be helpful. The Banshee might not have been seen? No, it was. The Observer is here, probes are pulled. Yeah, this is still denial on mining time, it's something, but is it really worth 3 Banshees and Cloak? I don't know about that. And while the starport isn't the main, you know, unit structure of Lillekanin's composition, it does kind of suck that you can't build, you know, I guess in this case, a Liberator, probably. Medevac wouldn't be too useful, and Vikings wouldn't be that useful. Oh, Oracle does die there. It's nice, but one's still alive for a Revelation. Barracks attempted to deny... I'm not even sure what. It might have tried denying the Nexus, but it was put in the wrong location. Well... Theo thinks he's going to have some time to get a couple of upgrades, and he's not necessarily wrong about that. Lillekanin still needs to get his 3 bases saturated and set up and defended, but as it is a Cyclone composition, it's not quite that same I have until X 150 supply before they can really confidently move out. Because the problem with usual tank heli and Hellbat is that it's so slow. When you move out, you're not going back. Like, you better hope you're going to win and rally to the win, reinforce to the win. But with Cyclones, since they're all about that micro, it's a little bit different. At any point, Lillekanin could go outside his comfort zone and try and attack Theo. He has to be a little bit careful because he knows that there could be a lot of Phoenixes on the field. He knows that there could be Blink Stalkers, but his scouting's been decent enough that I would think he doesn't believe there would be, you know, 15 Phoenixes or 10 Blink Stalkers. And that's really the only thing these Cyclones have to be worried about. With 6 Cyclones, that's a lot to cover each other's asses, basically. So if, you know, 3 of them get picked up, that usually is devastating. With 3 more attacking the Phoenixes will go down much quicker. Scans ahead. This barracks can provide very limited scouting as well, whenever it can. Phoenixes are going to go down here. Oh, almost. Fortunately locks onto a probe, but all the Adepts are going to go down. These Adepts are very useless. I'm actually really surprised Theo got them. Whoopsie, I just zoomed out. As a Blink Stalker Disruptor is probably the best way to go against Cyclones. You think maybe Shades could be pretty useful, but you'd be wrong, especially if the Woodamines are here. And I fear that Theo does have an inferior composition until he can get a good number of Disruptors. And even then, he has to get good shots on the Disruptor. So he's going to be a little bit sneaky. He comes from behind with the Disruptor, and it's really hard to split these damn Cyclones, but he misses! Oh, he misses. If you just even touch the butt of a Cyclone with a Disruptor, it will explode entirely. Oh, he needed that Disruptor. Theo, I think, is dead here. The Immortal really doesn't help out that much. It can take a lot of hits. It does, like, 3 shots of the Cyclone or something like that, but it also can be microed against. So, GG. Cyclone, good unit. Good unit. Oof. Again, don't know how the process of map choosing is going. I figured it'd be vetoes. Actually, I think I know it's vetoes. I think he said do your vetoes, so... They should all be preset. Next map's gonna be New Gettysburg. Lillekanin needs water. I would also like water. But I'm out of it. I don't want to go downstairs. And all I'm seeing is like pictures of food from people that are in Mexico right now for WCS, and I'm just so jealous. Actually, Mexico City looks kind of impressive. Looks really nice. But the food, man. I made a mistake eating that damn bagel this morning. If I didn't have that bagel, I could have gone and gotten, like, Taco Bell or something after this cast. Which I probably would not have, because, again, I'm pretty lazy. But the point is, the option would have been there. And that would have been a good substitute for not real Mexican food. Alright, now we're ready to go here. In game. Get my face off of that. Thank you very much. New Gettysburg, game number 2. In the bottom left as the orange Protoss, he is Theo. And in the bottom right as the green Terran, he's Lillekanin. And he is up 1. And I thought this might be a proxy, but it is just a supply depot blocking everything out. It'd be cool if he proxied after this, because it looks like Theo would have scouted his barracks proxy, so it's good he didn't do that. But since he denies the easy probe scout for kind of like the later early game scout, it'd be maybe a cool trick. Let's go scout now. Thank you to Miea1989 for the 18-month resub. Just a barracks, nothing fancy. Really, the supply depot block looks impressive because it is going to force you to go entirely around, but the point is you can still go around the supply block, literal supply block, and it's not too wise to rely on this for everything. So, yeah, Lillekanin maybe could have gone for like a CC first, something that's very dangerous and bold to do, and not very common, but instead just goes for the regular game. Theo gets an X after Gateway, which is pretty common. Soon, he'll realize... Oh no, he did take a gas, never mind. I was talking about the Reaper timing, but Lillekanin is still doing a Reaper expand. Occasionally this guy does Marine expands. Oh, hey, look at that. Called it, nailed it. I'm great. I'm the greatest. I didn't actually see when he took that gas geyser, so that might have even been a gas first, and I just completely missed it. What is the supply depot positioning? What? Why? Whatever. So, it is going to be Marine, Factory, Reactor, 1 base, and Theo, unfortunately, did not bother to scout. He scouted for all of the proxies that would have ever existed, although technically one could be up here. I'm just throwing it out there. Lillekanin's done that before. And instead of seeing anything, he saw nothing and assumes everything. And Lillekanin can certainly go for a 1-Rax expand. But soon enough, he'll realize the Reaper isn't out and be a little suspicious of that. And then soon after that, well, whatever Lillekanin is going to throw at him will have been thrown at him. So it's going to be a Cyclone opener here. So nothing including a medevac drop or, you know, surprise Banshees, which makes life a little bit easier for Theo in terms of, like, the surprise elements. But the Cyclone, while it may not be the biggest surprise anymore, as a lot of people are going for Cyclones, it is going to be an obnoxious thing to deal with, especially if he tries to go across the middle of the map with the Cyclone out and about. That's going to be free units for the Cyclone. And if he tries to send a Stargate in there, and the Stargate, by the way, is a very good overall coverall response to Terran shenanigans, which is probably why he went for it. It's actually just going to die to a Cyclone, which he now knows is out. There you go. Gets the free Adept. So the Stargate's still going to be useful, as I said. It also saw the floating barracks. So he knows it's going to be more than one Cyclone. But I think he was also anticipating the potential, like, 1-1-1. And now that he knows it's a Cyclone opener, he's got to be very careful with the limited amount of units he has. Phoenixes eventually can be an answer, but they aren't when there's only one or two of them. Because there'll be one or two Cyclones at the same time. There's not... You're kind of on even production here, even if you're chrono boosting. Yeah, Phoenix can lift it, and the second Cyclone's gonna come over here, though. So, that didn't quite work out as planned. The barracks provides that high ground vision as well as he just really doesn't need it. I mean, a handful of Marines can sometimes be the difference of between life and death for someone who doesn't have a lot of production quite yet, but this is Lillekanin taking control over the map. If Theo gets around his Cyclones with the Adepts, which is possible, then he just tries to run in. In fact, actually, I think going around the Cyclones with Adepts would be the best answer because the pylons should cover you from the Cyclones. Excuse me. Third CC is already done. It's going to turn to orbital very soon. And Theo's going to continue investing into Phoenixes. This might be his response to the Cyclones, but you'd really need to go for, like, double Stargate Phoenix to have the Phoenix composition be a good response. And unfortunately, that's not where he's going with it, so... If he goes for Resident Enclaves again, if he goes for the Adept composition with Phoenixes, it's going to look very similar to last game. I don't think it's a very convincing way to go about things, unless you can get an overwhelming count of X or Y, Phoenixes or Adepts. And Lillekanin is just taking a lot of control. It's very possible that Theo just straight up is uncomfortable with Cyclones. Certainly, they look powerful in the hands of, you know, the Korean gods, as it were, and that Shellcraft, King of the Hill. But we've seen Lillekanin try this exact same thing, even after the Shoutcraft games, where he maybe was, like, studying and perfecting and whatnot, and actually just get flat out denied. He got denied by Harstem the second time they played, and one other Protoss that I can't remember, but at first it's tricky, and then you realize kind of the secret to it, and it's not so bad, I suppose, but it's not exactly, it's not like a cheese, like, it's not like once you know how to defend against it's going to be super easy or anything like that. Now, Cyclones are still some powerful units, but we've certainly seen, like, in the hands of Harstem, Blink Stalkers look quite good. Phoenix count is up to 6. It is going to be up against almost 8 Cyclones soon, though, and that's... You gotta be very careful not to let one of the two of them die with each lock on. Third base is almost done, and Theo is looking pretty good on 56 probes. Once again reaching for that double forge, but also once again going for Resident Enclaves. I'm not convinced by the ability to... It's not even about taking on the Cyclones for me, it's about surviving long enough to take on the Cyclones, you know? Like, once Lillekanin tries to push out, which could be soon, you don't really know. Cyclones are just, they're that good. Once you have, like, 3 of them, you actually feel kind of confidently on the map. He just won't have a lot of Adepts. If he's allowed to get to 30 Adepts, plus, like, a handful of Disruptors, okay, then Lillekanin's army is not that impressive anymore. But it's all a question of, will he be allowed to do that? Scan goes down, is going to collect 1 Phoenix, I think that was. Not too bad. 4th base is already on the way for Lillekanin, which seems like quite a stretch. But I guess he was banking a lot of minerals. Thanks to Kamagi2 or Kamagi or Kamag12, either one, for the 8-month resub, and Nopacom for the 17-month resub. We have a large force of adepts, or I would say a medium force. This is like an American small here. Everyone else is medium force of adepts coming through. And this is where Cyclone builds can be a little tricky. Defensively, when they start to run out of places to micro, that's when they start looking a little bit useless. Surprise! Adepts! Their shade, though, is already used, and not to get on top of the Cyclones, which is a little problematic, but the Phoenixes are picking up a lot of these Cyclones, and we don't have Widow Mines this time. That's a big difference. Here they are trying to burrow now. Unfortunately, unable to kill the Cyclones he was picking up. That is a problem. Adepts transfer to get on top of the third base, but I don't think that was the right move. Almost all of the Phoenixes go down. The SCs are simply pulled away, and even if all of them had died, he's on 4 bases. You just gave up your army for that. That was not the right way to do things, and I could definitely see why he thought it would be. You could see the thought process, because it looked like he was really dominating that fight, but he really wasn't. Cyclones were living left and right. They weren't actually getting that last hit on them, even though they're pretty low health, and all of his Phoenixes just disappeared in the blink of an eye, and his Adepts shortly after. Now, Theo's on a 4th base almost. This one was denied by the barracks. It's kind of funny. And he's getting good upgrades, too, but I just don't feel like the upgrades would really matter. Not against Widow Mines and Cyclone Lock-On. Tempest's Ore Carriers is a kind of an old-fashioned way to deal with Cyclones, really. Back when Cyclones were really overpowered and they were being used versus Zerg and, you know, to Muslim, look really silly when he used it. You could also use it against Protoss, and carriers were okay against them, I suppose. Tempests had the range and were okay against them, I suppose, but that kind of fell off, and then, well, of course, both unit types fell off, Cyclones and fast carriers. So I don't really know what this is going to look like. I think the main problem with going for Tempests is that, first of all, Theo just lost all of his army, and Lillekanin didn't. So that's the main problem. And the second problem is, even if he was on a decent ground army and transferring as safely as possible into an air army, the production on it's very slow, and Cyclone production is surprisingly fast, especially with the help of the Widow Mines, which now have Drilling Claws, by the way. Stop following, damn it. There you go. Disruptors would be absolutely amazing. They would stop the Cyclones from moving in, but there's only one of them. It's already popped its shot here. Photon Overcharge helps a little bit. The Shades will try and shade behind the Cyclones, but there goes the Disruptor. The Adepts just die before they can shade, so not too useful there. And like this, okay, whenever you see Phoenixes lift the Cyclones up, you really hope they just die instantly, and instead they're living. Using the Disruptor on the Widow Mines was not a bad idea whatsoever, but is it enough? That is one Disruptor, and it's actually dead now, so never mind. It's 0 Disruptors. And that's game. Lillekanin takes another one with Cyclones. No battle cruisers necessary. Oh, that Widow Mine got a lot of units. Oh, that one too. Gee. Adepts, not working. That's first and foremost. The Phoenixes are an okay response initially, but I'm even unsure about that. However, to tell him to go for Blink Stalkers, like if I was his coach right now, I don't know if he'd really be convinced. First of all, you'd have to just hope you figure out how to play with them the correct way within the span of a single game now, as he's on his last life. And then second of all, you might just not be able to convince him Stalkers are the way to go. Even though that was the way I think that, was it Hurricane or someone took on Innovation? It's the way that Harsum took on Lillekanin. It can sound very counterintuitive, and unless you have a very good early game defense, it actually doesn't work. So there's that too. You actually need a nice number of Blink Stalkers. It's looking a bit grim for a Protoss player. Great if you're a Lillekanin fan. It's potentially the last game though, so I'm gonna fit in a quick commercial break. See you soon. Welcome back. We're into game number 3, potentially the last map of the day, of the match, of the cast, of everything. As this man in the bottom left is up 2-0 in a best of 5. It is the Green Terran, Lillekanin. And top right as the orange Protoss, he is Theo. Alright, so we saw a very early SCV scout that definitely looked like a proxy, but ended up just being the SCV scouting after the supply depot. And Theo, he unfortunately does not see the barracks, so he saw the SCV, I think. Well, now he sees it here, so he should know that it's not a proxy, but he's he's probably a little bit confused. Like, wait a second, he's counting the SCVs, like what's going on here? But he's just missing the barracks off to the right side. It's a clever little move that actually was done by a couple of cool Terrans. Back in the day, like versus Zerg, you would hide your barracks and build a marine. And they'd be like freaking out because they were being proxied, and then they'd lose the Overlord, and you would just lift the barracks and add a reactor on. It was kind of tricky. It was like a kind of a dick move, to be honest. But this isn't quite that, because you're not going to get any freebie kills. It really is just about tricking your opponent. He did see the gas timing, though, I believe, and is probably clicking on it to see how long it's been up, because he didn't see exactly when it was put down, but he might know that it's some one-base build of some sort, just doesn't know where it is. Being denied the Nexus is always frustrating for the Protoss, especially when you're planning on getting it, which most Protoss do. So he just has to kind of live with it. Had to get a Zealot, which is never, well, usually not ideal. Zealot first is such a thing of the past, you know? Nice cancel there in the last possible second. Command Center is going down now, and it is going to be another one of those Cyclone openers, which is doing a great job so far against Theo. He really does not know how to deal with it, and he's on the last game. So if he decides to mix things up and does try something very different, it could still not work, and, you know, that's that. If you try the same thing, that could still not work, and it probably won't, because it's the same thing you just lost 2 games with. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, do I try and perfect the thing I'm doing and just hope that X or Y goes a little bit better, or do I try something new, which I'm not comfortable with, and hope that something will magically solve all my problems? Which, you know, usually doesn't. Without a command center on the low ground, there's really nothing for those units to do. Honestly, even if it was on the low ground, a single Cyclone would be able to take care of that. Lillekanin even bothers scanning here. Of course, he denied that Nexus for so long, it really was like, okay, how quickly did you go for like a Toilet Council or a Stargate or anything like that behind it? Because he saw the timing of the Nexus, but it was a little bit later. You could have maybe fit something in between that. It's going to be a Stargate, and he scans that, and I think for Lillekanin right now, he should be thinking that he's going to win. I know it's calling it awfully early, but it is likely the Phoenix openers have not been the worst thing about this series. They've been the worst thing about midway, when they just feel very useless, but early game, they do provide that first line of defense of like, I'm going to pick up your 1 or 2 or 3 Cyclones and hopefully have enough left over when they all drop. But later on, they were unable to actually kill the Cyclones, and the composition on the ground did not really complement them that much. Again, if it was Blink Stalkers, any single time the Phoenixes picked up 2 or 3 Cyclones at a time last game, they all would have been dead. And that doesn't sound like such a big difference, because, you know, that final attack, there are so many Cyclones, but for the first attack, I think that would have been a very big difference. He sees Adepts again, too, and that's just... The Robo comes in, I think, a lot earlier than any other game before, and so does the Forge, but I don't know what this really means. Like, Immortals aren't the answer either, unfortunately. They're kind of like, okay, I can see the logic behind Immortals, because they can take a couple of shots, and they can also, if they get in range of the Cyclone, kill them very quickly, but the whole thing is, like, how do you get in range of the Cyclone? Lillekanin, feeling very confident, pushes out with 4 Cyclones, maybe? Oh, nope, just bringing him with 4. No, he's gonna push out. He knows what the Phoenixes are. If he got 1 or 2, you know, freebies because they're chasing the barracks, that would have been great. He knows where the army was, too, for like a second ago. And he can push out. Now, Galactic Process is going to be a little bit trickier to try and kill your opponent. Whoopsie. On 3 bases. Because there are ramps, and ramps are definitely going to be very useful, especially since he won't have the high ground anymore with the barracks, unless he mule drops. He actually has to rebuild one, because he doesn't have the factories yet. But a 3rd CC is already done. and it is just waiting to be moved on over. Phoenix almost goes down. Almost. Ah, Magfleet Accelerators went down yet. Well, that's certainly going to help. Twilight Council is now on the way. A Warp Prism is very useful against Cyclones. It can break the lock-on. I mean, so does picking them up, but this can be a lifesaver when it's lower numbers of Cyclones, but we're already to 3 bases. We're probably going to a 4th one as well. And that's when it's like, okay, you can only micro so much. And when you have everything else to micro as well. And that way I don't think it's going to be too useful. As far as harassment, what Warp Prism is usually used for in this matchup, I also don't think it's going to be that useful. But we'll see, we'll see. Like, Lillekanin has been very aggressive with the Cyclones once he feels confident enough. Like, it's not like it's a case where you can really leave 5 Cyclones back at home. Like, you could leave 5 Marines back at home. So that could be a very good time-buying maneuver. It could straight up kill 20 SCVs, but it could also just die. Get locked on once, and that thing is probably going to be dead. Disruptor is already on the way out, and if you can get to a higher number than just 1 or 2, Cyclones are very difficult to split with. They're fat, they're not exactly slow, but really it is the fact that they're so bulky that, especially since a Disruptor only needs to touch a part of the unit, it doesn't need to get to like the heart of the unit. It can get 3 Cyclones with 1 mediocre shot against, you know, Bio, but a great shot against Cyclones. Lillekanin scans ahead. He will need scans to get high ground vision unless Theo just lets him up here, which should not be the case, since he's, well, basically not a lot of units. This is really not that impressive of an army, but it is spread out, and now it has a Disruptor. That pylon's dead. That's gone. And Widow Mines are advancing. The Disruptor here is going to be very... Oh my god. Ooh, see, he could have gotten 2 Cyclones, maybe even 3, and maybe the Widow Mines 2, but instead pulled back the last second to get the Widow Mines. And I was going to bring up that, you know, this is a very important decision to make for the Protoss, is do I kill the mass amount of Widow Mines that Lillekanin will probably get to, you know, the 5 or 6, or do I try and get the money shots on the Cyclones? And, you know, one is riskier than the other, but maybe also the greater reward is to get rid of the Cyclones. Depths just aren't that useful. I hate watching them move forward here and then just get, you know, destroyed. They're going to be on top of the Cyclones once they drop from the Phoenixes, however, and the Immortal even helps out with that. That's a little bit better. Some of those Phoenixes are very low. The Cyclones, unfortunately, not in range of those Disruptors for Theo, and some of them might even go down! Oh, that was really close. He really wants them to. It was a little too far forward. Has to be careful not to let the Adepts trap his Cyclones. Warp Prism, not actually hit, but I thought it was. But Lillekanin, he is getting his count of Cyclones diminished here. But then again, Theo's getting his army diminished overall. So while that once again looked like, okay, maybe this is kind of favorable for Theo, it ends up not being favorable. That also has a lot to do with the fact that Theo let his macro slip. Oh my god, 1400, I think it was at 2000 at one point. Should definitely be on a 4th base, like transitioning to air if that's really what he wanted to do. Now he's going to try and do that, try and use his money. But Lillekanin ended up taking a better fight at the end of the day, and Theo really slipped on that macro. 4th base here for Lillekanin, probably wants to break them these rocks for it. A Warp Prism that did survive, surprisingly, with everything else that was going on, and is going to try and get a couple of SCV kills. The Cyclones, unfortunately, went to destroy the rocks on the wrong side of the rocks. Which is kind of funny. But Theo assumes that they're going to be here soon and just leaves. Kind of sucks for him. Now that he knows a Warp Prism is out and about, yeah, I'll probably get a couple more missile turrets on the edges here. We have 2 starports on the way. I guess he thinks that Cyclones aren't going to be the answer for very long. And he would have been right about that if it wasn't for Theo. I don't know what that was doing over there, but if it wasn't for Theo lacking in the macro, he would have been already 2's Tempest for sure. But not quite there yet. So Lillekanin's Cyclone-based army still has something to do here. Something to say about where this game's gonna go. Breaking down the rocks is pretty important for the Cyclones, I would say. There was a couple of opportunities there where Theo almost blocked out Cyclones from retreating because it was on a choke, and that's just, you know, it's also going to obviously clump up your units more against those Disruptors. Oh, there they are. It's like, where are those Disruptors? 4 of them is really scary. Like, that is probably enough to deal with Lillekanin. Oh, no, never mind. Nope, no, it's not happening. It's not, that's not exactly what I imagined. Oh, jeez. There you go, finally gets a shot in the Cyclone, but he might have thought there were more Woodamines than there actually were. Just kind of weird there. But Phoenixes are still around, they're gonna try and pick up these Cyclones. The Adepts do transfer in here, and there's not a lot of Woodamines to fall back to. The rest of the Cyclones are doing some serious work, however, and the Disruptors aren't getting the shots that I figured they would. Damn. One Woodamine. A back attack with Disruptor could be devastating, or it could be a freebie. It's a freebie. Rip. Upgrades are finishing up here for Theo, but again, like, I brought this up on New Gettysburg, I don't even know if that's really that important. I can tell the spell damage going down here, I just don't know. Lillekanin, of course, investing into the plating over the weapons, since that's going to be more useful here. Woodamine's got to cover against these Phoenixes, because there's still a decent count of them. The Disruptor shot doesn't do very much at all. If Theo ends up losing this game, I would definitely blame the lack of good Disruptor shots as well as his bank not being used up. Oh, that Woodamine hit so many units. And there's so many more Woodamines behind this. All the Phoenixes are dead. That's game. That snowballed in like a span of like a minute there. Oh, damn. Oh, Theo tried. Cyclone's too good. GG. Well, congratulations to Lillekanin for qualifying. Thank you to Tanith's Finest for the 8-month resub. BaseTradeTV fan for life. ZG Best Caster. Thank you. That's going to be it for the cast today as well. Again, like I said, pretty short. About 2.5 hours. Not so bad. Tomorrow's cast will hopefully have Rifkin back, but I don't know. He got the con flu. I don't think that goes away within a day. We'll see. And it will be the Central European qualifier for WESG. Friday will be a day off, and then we have maybe something planned for Saturday. But of course, there's so much other StarCraft happening this weekend. It would be hard to fit stuff in, I suppose. I'm certainly going to be watching all the Korean leagues, but we'll see what happens there. I think I'll just keep it all for the shoutouts, I suppose. So, quick commercial break, come back, do the shoutouts, say goodbye, and then host someone. Hey, thanks for watching those ads. So, end of stream shoutouts like usual. Please check out all of our sponsors. Cheers for Gaming, use code BaseTradeTV to get $20 off. G2A, use code BASE to get 3% off. Your Woodwatches, go to woodwatches.com/base to get 5% off, as well as contribute to an awesome prize pool for a future tournament. And Corsair Gaming, look down below for the links to all the peripherals that we love and highly suggest, including the awesome wireless headsets. Go down below to the Amazon links. If you ever use Amazon for anything, just click that, and it won't cost you anything extra, but it'll give a little bit to me. And that'll be, I guess, great for me. And, of course, follow the channel down below. They said tomorrow we'll be casting the Central European qualifiers, which will be longer than this, but not super long, as it's still a very divvied up qualifier. There's like 20-something of them for Europe in total, so that's a lot of qualifiers. And we won't be covering all of them. In fact, already some have happened, and we've missed it, but we'll at least be covering tomorrow's and see what happens in the future. Thank you all for watching. Rifkin will hopefully be back, but maybe not. Friday, I think, is our day off. And then Saturday and Sunday, of course, the Mexico's happening. We'll see if we'll try and fit something in there, if possible. And that's about it. Check out BaseTradeTV for scheduling and stuff like that. But, of course, check out the YouTube, youtube.com/BaseTradeTV. And check out our co-op game, as well as just, VODs you've missed and exclusive YouTube content, basically. Follow me on Twitter @ZG Gaming and on YouTube @ZombieGrub, where I've been uploading tutorials and co-op and a bunch of different stuff, and that would really be great. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye!